Hello my good fellas, today you will find out why Michael tried to kill Frank if he knew it was all Roth's fault. Why did Frank Pentangeli change his mind about testifying? Why did Frank Pentangeli commit suicide? And why didn't Richard Castellano reprise his role as Clemenza in The Godfather 2? My name is Ivan Piatouski and you are watching Vano VHS. Ironically, many viewers haven't read The Godfather or on the contrary haven't seen the movies. To set the record straight, Frank Pentangeli is a fictional character in The Godfather 2, played by Michael W. Gazzo. Gazzo was nominated for an Academy Award for the Best Supporting Role, which he lost to Robert De Niro. He was nicknamed Frankie Five Angels because of his last name, which is formed from the Greek prefix penta, meaning five, and the Italian word angeli, angels. Frank appears first in The Godfather 2 and then in the 2012 book The Family Corleone by Ed Falco. Why didn't Richard Castellano reprise his role as Clemenza in The Godfather 2? Frank initially wasn't in the film's script, with Frank Pentangeli's character being brought in to replace Peter Clemenza's character. Castellano was to appear as Clemenza in the second installment of The Godfather, but a controversy allegedly arose in which Castellano asked Coppola for his wife to script his lines. Coppola refused and Clemenza was replaced by Frank Pentangeli. Castellano's wife later challenged this theory, stating that her husband refused to reprise the role because of his belief that Clemenza would never be a traitor. If you want to learn the true story of Clemenza in the Godfather movies and books, I will leave a link in the description. Is it safe to use the internet? Sometimes it feels like hackers and fraudsters are watching your every step and know everything about you. But with a VPN, you can remain anonymous and protect your personal data. Change your location virtually to slip through the sensor unnoticed. You can browse the internet as if you live abroad. A couple of clicks is all it takes. If you use the Hide My Name VPN, your passwords, messages and all other secrets will be completely safe. Test VPN access for 24 hours for free or use an anonymous purchase without registration. Hide My Name VPN allows you to protect up to 5 devices at no extra cost. I've been using this program myself for a year now. All the links are in the description. Pentangeli was originally from the province of Palermo, Sicily. He then moved to New York. In New York he had an Italian wife and 2 children, and a mistress, whose kids he moved to Sicily to live with his own brother Vincenzo. In the 30s, Pentangeli had a close relationship with Giuseppe Mariposa, a Sicilian who thought he had the whole of New York under his thumb. Pentangeli later secretly allied with Vito Corleone and kept Peter Clemenza updated on Mariposa's intentions, enabling Corleone to act on the one-step-ahead principle. Nevertheless, Mariposa wasn't a fool and had begun to mistrust Pentangeli. And Vito Corleone, fearing for his friend's life, gave Pentangeli his patronage as he made preparations to start a war against Mariposa. In 1958, Pentangeli approaches Michael demanding his assistance in eliminating the Rosata brothers, his rivals in New York, who claim to have promised them territory before Clemenza's demise, but Michael declines his request. Michael ordered Pentangeli to do nothing, not wanting the conflict to break the pending deal with Hyman Roth, who was siding with the Rosata brothers. Pentangeli then took it as an insult, saying, "I won't give you any trouble." That same evening, Michael barely escaped an assassination attempt on his life. Realizing that Hyman Roth is behind the attack, Michael meets with Pentangeli and asks him for help in carrying out his revenge. Pentangeli agrees, promising to end the feud with the Rosata brothers and pretending that Michael supported their demand so that Roth would get the impression that Michael had no idea of the plot being prepared against him. In New York, Frank arranged a meeting with the Rosata brothers in order to make a deal with the latter. The deal turned out to be a setup, and Tony Rosata himself attacked Pentangeli, claiming that Michael had sent him. Frank was saved only by his screaming, which alarmed the policeman who happened to be nearby. At a Senate hearing related to organized crime, Pentangeli appeared as an unscheduled witness. Believing that Michael had ordered the Rosata brothers to kill him, he, along with Willie Chichi, had been in FBI custody since the assassination attempt. Pentangeli, who was charged with the first-degree murder, volunteered to testify against Michael. He told FBI agents and was prepared to tell the commission that Michael was the ringleader of the most powerful mafia organization in the country. Most damning of all, he was prepared to testify that Michael had personally massacred Captain McCluskey and Virgil Solozzo, and had also prepared a plan for the massacre of other New York dons. Why did Frank Pentangeli contradict his own statement? I've read a lot of fan theories that when Frank met his brother's eyes in the courtroom, he supposedly remembered who he was and what vows he had taken. I mean Amerta. Both that he was Sicilian and that he loved his brother. I think it's actually much simpler than all that. By bringing the Frank's brother, Michael explicitly hinted: if I brought your brother back from Sicily, it won't be hard for me to get to everyone you care about. It's worth taking into account that by the end of the second film, Michael had turned from the crime boss into a man without a soul. Nothing and nobody could stop him. He even kills his own brother in the finale of the film, knowing that Fredo is helpless and no longer a threat. I guess what we saw was a display of power, and Frank understood that, fearing for the future of his relatives. Of course, you may have your own opinion on this, and I would love to have a discussion with you. Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. Due to the fact that Pentangeli was under guard, Michael couldn't dispose of him before the hearing. In return, he brought Vincenzo by plane from Sicily. Seeing his brother in the courtroom, Frank denies his confession and pretends to be completely unaware of the Corleone family's criminal enterprise. Why did Frank Pentangeli commit suicide in The Godfather 2? Frank represented a lethal threat to Don Michael. As we all know, family is everything to Michael. For one thing, that was his father, Don Vito Corleone, taught him. Second, it's part of his culture, a tradition that's embedded in his genes, if I may say so. Michael can't allow there to be any reason why he could potentially go to jail. After all, if Michael went to jail, his family would be without protection, and that was simply unacceptable, given the looming threat of Hyman Roth. So he sends Tom. Tom Hagen paid Pentangeli a surprise visit. Pentangeli speculated about how tough his brother was. Hagen subtly hinted to Pentangeli that he had made the right move in declining to testify, and that if he took the burden of turning over the Corleone family, his relatives would be cared of and unharmed, as had occurred with the rebels fighting the Roman emperors. Once the five angels agreed to testify against Michael and then screwed over the authorities by refusing to testify, Frank found himself in an almost hopeless situation. He expresses his appreciation to Hagen, then returns to his room and slits his wrists with a shaving blade, committing suicide. The Corleone family kept their promise, and Frank's family was secure. Subscribe to my channel so you don't miss future Godfather videos. Support the channel by buying the Godfather merch. All the links are in the description. Make sure to watch the full Godfather playlist on the right. My name is Ivan Piatouski and you are watching Vano VHS.